次开发的专有语言模型。根据您的了解，可穿戴式的人工智能还有哪些新的趋势？
对，那应该说呢 ，AIP 呢算是首个使用这种人工智能技术的可穿戴设备吧。那它也标志着整个 AI 来加硬件的一个时代，应该说呢逐渐的开启了。那首先呢，我觉得原有的可穿戴的设备呢，都将面临就是 AI 也就是人工智能所带动下的整个原有产品的再升级。例如呢，原来我们知道呢，可穿戴设备包括智能手表啊，也
就有1名经常使用哈，您怎么样看这样的一个数据呢？
我觉得很正常啊，年轻人接受新鲜事物快，而且这东西啊，它的确对我们的工作效率是有很大的提高的。当然，就可能是年轻人所接受了。至少啊，我与我的学生吃饭的时候讨论的最多的话题，交流的最多的还是人工智能、ChatGPT 和大模型。因此，我就鼓励我的学生们使用，他们当然也就不断的在开始使用了。我也知道其他的老师的学生，虽然老师不一定知道有 ChatGPT 什么东西，或者不一定知道 ChatGPT 是干什么用的，能对我们有什么帮助，但是有他的学生们之间的相互交流都是
的质疑就是，当学生们惯用这样的人工智能的学习也好，进行这种助力的话，会导致一些思维能力的惰化。
我觉得我在这个问题上，我觉得还是比较有发言权的。就是我们刚才说到花费之前嘛，我当时听大家说到，我要在我的课上采用ChatGPT来教学。虽然学生们的反应来说法啊，也不是说所有的学生他们全是拥抱变化的，也有挺保守的，他们保守起来比年纪大的人还保守。他们只是纠结于人工智能可能给他们提供了一个错误的答案，并没有什么奇怪的。从我自己的角度来看呢，我觉得人工智能的操作还是不错，所以在今年秋季学期我就继续采用了。我回答你刚才的问题，就是说发生转变的我觉得这个的话就应该是时代的定义。这个复数会导致出于上。
That is why I think that the other parts of the state, I mean, especially the developing countries, especially Islamic and Arab states, and also including China, could do more to, on the one hand, help to pacify the tensions, and on the other hand, to help to give more international humanitarian aid to the local people in the galaxy.
Well, Peter, of course, it seems like that from the Arab world, from Muslim countries in particular, I mean, global South in general, on the Western nations, in particular, if you, I mean, I think some of the, capital, some of the
I think the last event was that the minor thing that was still being debated upon is how long this peace agreement would be, and also regarding exchanges of hostages from the Hamas side and also Palestinian prisoners from the Israeli side. So peace agreements in these situations are very tricky and they are very sensitive. The hope is that it will come about in the next 22 days.
Rick, what's your sense of reports saying that hostage deal is very close to be reached between Hamas and the Israeli side? I guess most people would say that's a positive development, and will that be helpful in bringing the two sides to have a ceasefire? Enough probably to solve this conflict.
Yeah, the answer is it's an essential first step toward de-escalation, and we can hope for an eventual resolution of this. I mean, what we absolutely need is release of all hostages. We also need an end to killing of innocent civilians. We need an end to firefights inside of hospitals. And the first step would be to have a prisoner swap as such. The hostages who have no reason to, they were innocent to begin with, need to be released, and as many as possible. We need to have a stoppage of the military action to ensure safety for as long as possible. And I think that is the only reason that we haven't had an announcement of a deal that the United States and other are trying to get as many hostages released and long, like
Another, the basics of how you excavate and stabilise cuts and things of that sort are also a key part.
And what sparked your interest in mining? Why are you so interested in it?
Mining is one of the fundamental requirements for society. We have to provide raw materials. We have to have enough material to meet various demands, and we have to do that in a sane and sensible way.
Would we be able to get on in society without it?
No, you wouldn't, because you've got to have the various materials, whether that's sort of a hard rock quarry providing aggregate to your roads. I mean, that's a very obvious one. And then coal mining provides material which will be useful in the case of New Zealand coal, the South Island coking coal, and that becomes a key part of the steel industry.
So let's talk about how we can mine pieces of steel and what the smartest way to do that is.
The smartest way you're going to have your regulations for a start, and so you have to have careful administration of the mining regulations. You're not going in there and ripping things out without having a long-term plan to rehabilitate the site afterwards.
So can you give me an example of that?
Oh, well, I mean, I think if we look at places like Stockton, if we look at what's happening in the South Island at Macrae's, the operations are then rehabilitated, and the land, although the land use will change, you have that option, and you have things well set up to allow future land use, whether it's rural or whatever.
Yeah, so Macrae's is an open pit mine, right?
Yes.
And if you have an open pit mine, how can you rehabilitate the land?
You're going to have the series of benches. Those benches are going to be typically at about 15-metre vertical separation. The benches will be 7-8 metres wide at the conclusion of the mining operations, and you will then be able to plant those out, the benches out, and that will provide a degree of restoration.
You might have to just explain to me what benches are, sorry, David.
Benches are flat surfaces which you cut during the mining operation. So you need a flat surface to run your trucks on, and you then have a batter behind that, which you'll cut at whatever angle is stable or appropriate. So you have a bench and batter step. In other words, a series of steps going up the hill or down the hill, as the case may be.
What about some other options? Underground is a bit more environmentally friendly, isn't it, rather than open pit mining?
It's significantly more environmentally friendly. It's about 4 to 5 times the cost.
Oh, okay. Why is it more environmentally friendly to do it underground?
Providing you don't have subsidence. I mean, there are issues with underground mining as well, and you may have ground collapse, which is called subsidence. So that is a possibility.
Okay, so you might have the subsidence, but why is it generally more environmentally friendly than doing an open pit mine?
Oh, I think it is because it has less surface impact and therefore less for the mining operation.
I was having a look at some statistics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which done some research into this, that it says 73% of extracted rock goes to waste when you mine something from the open pit versus underground mining, which is only waste 7%. Quite a stark difference.
Yeah, I think that depends very much what you're talking about, however. I mean, if you're taking it out of the surface, you're taking out what we call overburden, which is the waste rock above the ore body. And so it depends on how thick that waste rock is, and then you need to find a home for that. So that becomes a key part. Underground, you're extracting less waste material. That's quite true, because you're focusing on what you need to recover, and you're designing your underground mine to access the key parts of the ore body.
Would underground mining have any impact on the state of the environment, on the ground level? Like,
subsidence can occur. One of the ways you can limit or avoid that is to actually backfill what we call the stope, the area from which valuable material is extracted. But again, that's an added cost. So, it all comes back to economics at the end of the day.
Any other tips for mining sustainably or environmentally friendly mining?
The key thing today, and probably in the last 30-odd years, is that the mining industry has decided that we can no longer operate in a fashion where we simply go and extract what we want and walk away from a site. Everything has to be planned in such a way that at the end of the day, there is land which is restored, whether that's got forest on it, whether it's got pine trees on it. This is a matter that has to be set up at the beginning. And so I think it's the forward planning and the requirement on the consenting authority to ensure that these matters are addressed in a responsible way.
Chris Blackson's got a big, he has got this balancing act between the mining industry, who are very keen, of course, to progress, this gold mine in Waihi and other mining interests on the West Coast, and trying to balance that with adequate protection of conservation land.
When you talk about the West Coast, that went blue this election. Maureen Pugh took over that electorate. So, yeah, there's a lot of resentment, I feel, on that particular area,
Absolutely, there is. And you can understand it. I mean, my dad's from Hokitika, and I have family down there, and it is one of the most beautiful parts of the country, but it is really struggling through COVID. Tourism, that's its main earner. And in mining, if we were to be more permissive in giving mining permits in the West Coast, then that would be a boost for those areas. But we have a lot to also protect as we move into a future where fossil fuels are no longer, that path is not one that we want to continue down.
And obviously, if Labor's ban had been put in, the ban on no new mining and conservation land, we wouldn't even be having this discussion in the Coromandel.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I have to say, it's... I know I said earlier that, Jacinda Ardern, I do believe she did mean for that promise to be kept. But it degrades the speech from the throne a little when you've got a promise that's being made, and, how many years on are we from 2017 and that promise hasn't been fulfilled? It's sort of, the trust that people have in politicians isn't exactly soaring, and for a promise like this to be made, how can we really expect for politicians to have the trust of voters when it's clear that this promise is likely not going to be kept?
That's it for today. I'm Tom Kitchen. The Detail is supported by the Public Interest Journalism Fund. Today's episode was engineered by Mark Chesterman. Our producers are Alexia Russell and Bonnie Harrison. Thanks to Isabel Ewing and David Bell. Hey, Corner.
Thanks, Tom. And you can hear that episode again on rnz.co.nz or the RNZ app or wherever you download your podcasts. It's 6 minutes to 7. The Conservation Department is concerned about 2 reported wallaby sightings on the west coast of the South Island in recent months. The kangaroo-like pests threaten the environment and biodiversity. The department's South Westland Operations Manager, Wayne Costello, says the only way a wallaby could have reached the west coast was with human help. He spoke to Ingrid Hipkiss on Morning Report about whence the wallaby came and what may come of it.
So the wallaby couldn't have made its own way over the Alps?
No, they're not known for those sorts of distances, and the only way this thing would have gone walkabout is not by itself, it's with a little bit of help.
Okay, what do you think's happened here then?
Well, potentially someone wanted a pet or wanted to start some opportunity to hunt them on the west coast, and yeah, it's been let go or gotten out of a vehicle or something in a pretty unusual spot, actually. So it's sort of just south of Knights Point, which is about 20 k's north of Haas, and yeah, a pretty peculiar area for a wallaby to be in. So, yeah, something maybe happened on the way when they were transporting it, and it either got out or caused a ruckus and, yeah, managed to escape.
Okay, so not its usual environment. 2 reported sightings, so you think there are 2 or possibly more?
No, the sightings are about 4 months apart, okay, and in the same location, so possibly the same animal. And the second report was of a wallaby with a joey by its side, so possibly 2.
Okay. What is the impact of having a wallaby on the west coast of the South Island?
So we spend quite a lot of money and effort looking after that particular piece of forest down there. It's had over 20 years of protection, trying to keep pests out of there to look after our biodiversity and nature. And so introducing another pest species is just a real disaster for there, because it just gives us potentially another real bad issue to manage. They destroy the understory of the forest. They compete for food sources with our native species, and yeah, they're just really destructive, so we don't want that here on the west.
So what should someone do if they see this wallaby and its little baby? Are you trying to trap it, or what's the plan?
Yeah, well, if anyone sees a wallaby outside of the known areas, then they should report that to wallabies.nz. There's an online reporting system, but if anyone sees one here on the coast, then they should definitely do that same thing, or let their local DOC office know. We have put a hunter in there with a trained wallaby dog to see if they can track it and find it, and we've also got some camera traps set up to see if we can track this animal down. But they're pretty elusive, and when in really low numbers, very, very elusive.
What about the penalties for if you do find out who took it there?
Yeah, it's a real serious thing. So you can be imprisoned up to 5 years and a $100,000 fine.
That's Wayne Costello, DOC South Westland Operations Manager on Morning Report earlier today. A little Maisie Weeker to take us through to the news at 7.
RNZ Pacific is now closing on this frequency. Our service continues in a few moments on 13755 kilohertz in the 22-metre band. Once again, return now to 13755 kilohertz in the 22-metre band. We can also be heard online at rnzi.com.
也会发现他们有时候也会相互矛盾，因为在今年的3月份到6月份之前，他们也发布了中国的负面的东西，在去年的时候也发布了这个负面的一些东西，遭到了约谈，大家也会去讲说这个事情上，我们也会打一个问号，然后看看呢说哪些信息到底是更可信，哪些信息来讲是值得怀疑。所以我觉得这个现在的时代也并不是说某一家公司的这种交易或者它的一个评价，大家就能够完全相信的。
刚才是本期节目嘉宾秦鹏，今天讨论的话题是中国第3季度外国直接投资出现赤字，中国领导人喊话吸引外资。面对国内经济下行和外国直接投资下降，近期中国领导人也在努力顺关企业继续来华投资。中国领导人习近平10月中旬在“一带一路”国际合作高峰论坛开幕式上宣布，将全面取消制造业领域外资准入限制措施。他说：“世界好，中国才会好；中国好，世界会更好。”中国国务院总理李强5号在上海进博会开幕式发表演说时承诺，将继续深化改革，扩大自由贸易区，放宽外国投资的市场准入，同时发展低迷的经济。李强还宣布， 未来5年中国商品和服务进口将达到17万亿美元。他说，中国对外开放的步伐不会停滞，中国对世界方向发展积极的决心不会改变。美联社的分析称，中国采取了多项政策来刺激经济，增加基础建设支出，降低利率，并放松购房限制。但经济学家普遍认为，需要进行更广泛的改革，来解决抑制增长的长期问题。习近平在“一带一路”的国际合作高峰会论坛上宣布说，要全面取消这个制造业领域外资准入限制。那么，我想请问您的是，为什么他特别提制造业呢？
中国的制造业实际上是含金量是非常高的一个这种领域，因为中国是世界工厂嘛，是世界上门类最齐全的、产业链最完整的领域。其他的这些领域，你像服务业或者是金融业等等的，这个后面的是太难以开放了。而制造业的这种开放，不是来为大家开放呢，是因为现在外国投资者
近期气温明显偏高，给降温留足了空间，所以淮河以北的不少地方都会经历剧烈的降温。另外呢，在寒潮南下的过程中，实力会逐渐的被削弱，所以总体来看，这次寒潮对北方地区的影响要更大一些。接下来看一下今后3天，在长江中下游及其以北地区，气温会先后下降6到10度。其中内蒙古、东北、华北西部和北部、黄淮中东部等地降温12到16度，内蒙古中东部、东北地区东部等地的部分地区降温幅度呢可能会超过16度。其中今天夜间到明天降温是最为剧烈的。那除此以外，今后3天，长江中下游及其以北地区还会伴有4到6级的偏北风，阵风有7到8级。那今明2天，像河北、北京、天津、内蒙古一带风都比较大，要注意安全。
好的，问题。
24节气，小雪，风鸾旧晚，寒风吹，小雪簌簌打窗飞，几分新年，风先飘落，地上丹青，收藏风韵，愿岁岁皆如意，所有美好如期而至，天地有节，风雅中华。
进步，来年大吉。哪里？今年立冬。
So very naturally, the people resort more to the alternative currency, which is RMB, which is spreading out very widely. And the Chinese government has also been pushing forward for the further internationalization of RMB. And now we do see substantial improvements has been made. But of course, we have to remind that it's really a long drive for RMB to rival in terms of quantity, in terms of liquidity in the United States, because the capital account of RMB has not really been fully liberalized yet.
Yes, thank you, Liu Baocheng, Director of the Center for International Business Ethics at University of International Business and Economics. More to come. Germany, France, and Italy have reached agreement on the future of AI regulation. How will that impact negotiations at the European level? Air China resumes direct flights between Beijing and Washington. How will it promote people-to-people exchanges between China and the U.S.? You're listening to World Today. I'll be back in a minute.
Dan Wang, Chief Economist of Hang Seng Bank, China. The World Today is a real-time program. You will hear interesting people discussing global trends, economic events, what's happening in and outside of China. So, friends around the world, hope you can join us.
Welcome. I'm Ina, economics professor and member of the Data Science and AI Center at New York University, Shanghai. On the World Today program,
can find in-depth and impartial insight, as well as critical commentary on key trends in the Chinese economy, finance technology, business, and blockchain. To prepare for the world tomorrow, join me on World Today.
This is World Today. I'm Zhao Yang. France, Germany, and Italy have reached an agreement on regulating artificial intelligence.
And there's always one familiar face in these films. In this case, TV veteran Patrick Dempsey, longtime heartthrob in TV soap Grey's Anatomy. He plays Sheriff Eric in the Massachusetts town of Plymouth.
Show some enthusiasm. Thanksgiving is an institution.
Plymouth is where the whole Thanksgiving thing kicked off, I gather, when the local Native American tribes saved the Pilgrim Fathers from starvation. A slightly later tradition is when the entire town goes shopping mad on Black Friday, shortly after Thanksgiving.
Someone's up for revenge, and they're turning it into a sick holiday game.
Last year's Black Friday had been a bloodbath, literally, inflamed by the prospect of free wallet.
So I would believe that, the manufacturing in those areas are real strong, and also some of the innovative ways of doing the business digitally has expanded quite a lot. So both sides of the government and the market is trying to make a new balance to develop those areas, and this change will impact the overall structure of the economy, allows to improve the efficiency and reducing the cost of sharing the information with others, while still improve the abilities for the factories to meet the demand of the customers, even abroad. So I think it's a really nice opportunity for us to think about how can we reach a high quality development in the coming years, better strengthen ourselves and also improve the relationship with other countries and our partners.
And what is green transition's role in China's economy now?
Yeah, green transition is one of the main areas for the higher quality development, because China is a very good manufacturing countries, and we produce so many things in the traditional ways. Some of them are we learning from other countries' practices, but now we see that the energy is transforming, and some of the new energies have been employed in the manufacturing, so we can create a much wider room. Well, in this regard, we are not only trying to support ourselves, but also support many other countries' development plans to reach the carbon neutralization in the coming years. So it's a wide of possibilities, not only from the manufacturing, and we can still find more from the services abilities, which is a very important integration in the development or transition to the green economy.
And China has huge market demand. So how do you think China's market can contribute to the global economic recovery?
Yeah, Chinese market is growing very quickly, and we are almost the number 2 in the consumption, the total volume in the world. So we are still catching up with the number 1. So I think that Chinese consumers are really very interested in trying some different products produced by other countries. If you're looking at the CII, the China International Import Expo in Shanghai, there are so many exhibitors who are giving us a kind of new products and services. So I mean that our market can provide so many possibilities instead of just the volume. So there are so many things that we can do to contribute to the recovery of the world economy.
That's Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, speaking with Zhao Yang. This is World Today. Stay with us.
Hello, I am Dr. Digby James Wren, a political analyst and international relations scholar specializing in China area studies. World Today offers unmatched in-depth perspectives on China's politics, economics, business, technology and society. World Today's team of reporters and contributors provides valuable information from all of the world's major economies. I hope you can join me on World Today for the very best insights and news from China, on China, and help to build a better understanding of China's role in the world today.
You're listening to World Today. I'm Zhao Yang. Air China has resumed flights between Beijing and Washington. Direct passenger services between the two national capitals are now available for the first time after the COVID-19 pandemic. Yu Yang has more from the Beijing Capital International Airport.
The flight number CA817 operates twice a week, with return at CA818 make a stopover in Los Angeles. Well, since the easing of the COVID-19 pandemic, the resumption of flights between China and the United States has been closely monitored. According to the Civil Aviation Administration of China, during the 2023-2024 winter and spring flight season, the number of regular passenger flights
会迅速提振，而美国还有西方国家在疫情中的表现也是差强人意，而且呢经济上提振乏力，那时候满满的这个东升西降的那种感觉，所以呢是态势是非常强的。一年这个过来，一年中发生了很多事情。他回国不久就发生了白纸运动。白纸运动实际上是非常重要的一个全民的抗议活动。这个抗议活动是对习近平非常重要的一次政治上的打击，他的权威受到非常大的一个影响。之后呢，人们迅速的发现，就是疫情以后提振经济的那个预想没有实现，而且这个习近平中共政府使用了很多的策略，试图能恢复工商界，特别是民营企业的信心。
Despite a degree of resolution, instability remains in Vanuatu, with Parliament still split between at least three factions. Prime Minister Shalo Selvai having the backing of just 22 members among the 51 MPs. Meanwhile, earlier today, near Vanuatu, there was a substantial earthquake, registering 7 on the Richter scale. It was a shallow tremor and just a light tsunami was noticed. And when RNZ Pacific called the disaster office in Port Vila, staff there not felt the quake. A spokesperson for the West Papua National Liberation Army says New Zealand pilot Philip Mertens has been looked after well since becoming a hostage. Mr. Mertens was taken hostage by the army in February, shortly after landing at a remote airstrip. A new video circulating on social media shows Mr. Mertens surrounded by armed men, comes with a claim that he's been given 2 months to live before he'll be shot dead. RNZ's been unable to verify the footage or when it was filmed. The spokesperson, Akubu Amatis-Dua, says he was told today Mr. Mertens is safe and healthy.
Liberation fighters gave him very good hospitality, which is if he needs some medication or water or food or whatever, they always provide.
New Zealand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs would only say they're aware of the video and said efforts are ongoing to support Mr. Mertens' safe release. Wapanamanda and Wabag districts in Inga province and Papua New Guinea have been declared fighting zones amid continued tribal fighting. The Post-Courier reports the Provincial Peace and Weather Committee has imposed a 1-month lockdown to contain tribal conflicts and the law and order situation in both districts. The latest fighting has delayed the completion of a by-election in the Langap seat, a vote which was held after violence caused last year's poll during the national election to be declared failed. The lockdown means curfew and travel restrictions are being applied within Wabag town and within the declared fighting zones of both districts. A group of women are breaking down gender divisions in Fiji homes 1 week at a time. The Fiji Women's Crisis Centre visits rural communities to teach women about their rights, Fijian law and domestic violence. Shamima Ali, activist and coordinator of the centre, says it's a tough but important job.
Well, I don't think the work will ever be done, but the thing is we have noticed all the improvements. When the laws change, it's going to take many, many more steps. It's about becoming aware of women's rights and doing something about it.
Climate advocates are vowing to hold the incoming New Zealand government accountable in order to protect the Pacific Ocean and its marine life. New Zealand has been in support of a new global target to protect 30% of our ocean by 2030. Over under a national-led government, New Zealand plans to lift the ban on oil and gas exploration. Major concern for many organisations championing the...
I left. This is interesting. I left in 2010 to go to Korea, and I came back to San Francisco for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when I moved back, the prices had already increased dramatically. And I moved to a different place in Sunset District on the west side of San Francisco. And I was paying $1,200 for a room half the size of the room that I previously was renting out.
Twice the price for half the area.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was 13 years ago. So the prices now are just astronomical.
Mm.
And, houses, median home in the United States is like $550,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in another kind of bubble. I'm not an economist, but I'm looking around at the U.S. market, and it feels the same way that it felt before.
When researching for this, I thought of the public housing in Beijing. Because that for years, actually over a decade, people are complaining about how expensive housing has been. And Chinese people are less used to the idea of renting. Of course, we all want to just own our own place, right? But I think that mentality is even deeper, rooted in Chinese people's mind. But the younger generation are accepting the reality now. Living in a city like Beijing. You just don't hope to just buy a house after you start working. So I did hear about coworkers back when I was working there who rented these public housing. Mm-hmm. And they are so much cheaper than average rent out there. Have you heard about this? In Chinese, it's called 公租房, which means public rental houses or apartments.
I haven't heard of that. I have heard of a few new policies I'd like to talk about later, but I'd be thrilled if you taught us about this.
So the little bit of research that I did, Beijing is more expensive than most other places in China. So the public, for the public apartments, it averaged out to be about 30 yuan per square meter per month. So that's probably the highest.
I think that when we talk in this framework about the amount of meters and things, most Americans have no idea what we're talking. We have to talk about, is it a big, small, medium-sized apartment? How much does the total apart cost?
Okay, so for one tiny studio, and for public housing, you pay about 2,000 RMB. Which is much lower, probably at least half the price of if you go on the private market. And then I found this another city or area in Qingdao. You know Qingdao, right?
Qingdao's a lovely
city. Beautiful city. I know, by the sea. And they have a mountain there called Laoshan, which is a beautiful scenic area. Mm-hmm. The prices there, it's ridiculous for their public housing. It's 0.75 RMB. It's literally, what is it? 10 cents per square meter per month.
What? How is this possible?
This lady,
is this a cardboard box?
No, this lady, she just moved in to one of these public rental houses, apartments. And she said there's supermarkets around here, there's a school, and there's simple furnishing for the apartment. You can just, take your luggage and move in. And she pays 24 RMB per month.
What?
You have to be poor.
I'm moving there. How do you get that? Do you have to be poor? You have to show your income? Oh, so you have to prove that your income is below a threshold.
Yeah, you have to have really low income.
Yeah, who built and runs this? Government?
Yeah, this government.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
I think we should research this more. Americans would be drooling over this idea.
But you have to have low income, serious low income.
I know, but there are a lot of Americans who would benefit from this, and there are a lot of Americans who could prove they have no income or very low income. Yeah, this is something we should be adopting. And Micah, could you tell us more about it?
For this particular one, the smallest would only be 32 square meters. So that's one-man studio. Have you seen those tiny studios in Tokyo?
Yeah.
It's enough, right? It has a bathroom.
Hong Kong too, right? Yes.
Yeah, Hong Kong, these ridiculously small. But this is decent. I've lived in an apartment that's about 30 square meters. It's sufficient, okay? It costs 24 RMB, which is what, $5?
That's my goal.
So the government literally just built the building and then like.
I think it has been a project because the government knows that a lot of younger people, right, or people like families with low income, they just can't not afford to buy housing. And also, you know how
You have no idea how much I love this. You have to send after the show. Please send me the link.
Chinese though, so
I'll translate it. I'll do whatever it takes.
the average household income for this particular region in Qingdao, they make less than 800 RMB per month. So that's they make less than 120.
Median. They're lower than median.
Yeah, so you can imagine how much they can afford to pay. But so housing is basically free for these families.
Practically,
But public housing has been a project for, the Chinese government because you just need a place to live. For example, my auntie, who's my nanny, she comes for a few hours a day. She used to rent a place, like in a village close to where I live, for like 500 RMB a month. So that's less than $100 a month. But that village has been cleared, I think, because it's just too old and they're like fire hazards. People charging their motorbikes and, things like outside, and it can actually lead to fires. So she moved into like another apartment, and this one she said, "Oh, it's so expensive, like twice as expensive. About $1,000."
So what's that, like $150?
Yeah, and that's like an apartment. But I live in like peripheral Beijing, so it's much cheaper than in the city.
Well, I lived in peripheral Beijing on the south side, like you do now, and I was looking at how much apartments were being sold in 2019 because I was living there, and they were selling them for about 1 million RMB, which is like, I don't know, $150,000 US dollars. But we're talking about a 2-story apartment, kind of loft, with a great view and
Beijing.
Brand new with a chandelier in Beijing, 6 Ring South, near the subway where you could just go into Beijing on Line 4. So like, it is affordable. I mean, okay, it's not affordable to live in downtown Beijing in the center. You've already been here from 10 years ago when it was still kind of affordable. But if you go to the, like you say, peripheral areas, it is, it's manageable.
Yeah, so maybe for a lot of people, especially younger people, we need to adjust our mentality and to psychologically get ready for a harder time, for a harder period of time. You're listening to The Bridge.
May I tell a story?
Please. I love stories.
So in 2021, I think it was, my wife and I, Summer and I, we moved to Wuhan, like we've talked about many times. And we were paying 7,000 RMB, or basically $1,000 a month, for this place in really downtown, right by Xidan. This was a box. It was like a bedroom there had a bathroom attached to it. It was so tiny, but we were like actually in, real Beijing, old Beijing, part of Beijing. And then we were like, okay, we can't live in a box, right? Maybe we should move to Wuhan, So we decided to move there because I got a job out there, and I moved. We paid 2,200, I think it was. And we had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, mansion-style apartment with balconies on both sides. And we were just like, we could not believe it. We were in a wonderful neighborhood in a wonderful community that was well-kept, swimming pools and playground areas for the kids, and everything was just spectacular. So I think, when you say we need to adjust our expectations, I think this is also people living in, Shenzhen, Beijing, Shanghai, right? Shanghai. Maybe Hong Kong too, right? These cities are really expensive. But if you just move to any other city in China, basically, it's a lot more affordable.
Both you and I and also our listeners are getting the idea that times are different now. In many ways, right? Geopolitical and the economy, lifestyle, with technology changes and everything. So it's a lot to take in, but it's about time for us to make some adjustment of our expectations.
Sure, yeah.
And I think people who've been living in the U.S. for decades probably don't realize how stable prices had been, until about 2 years ago, how prices stable it happened in the U.S. And it's just a different time now. And I think the changes start with internally making the adjustment and get ready. And also
was thinking how maybe people should watch more videos from other countries.
Consider moving to Mexico.
Not just for more choices, but making this psychological adjustment, especially for people who've only lived in the U.S. and, you know, who've lived through decades of affluence and kind of took things for granted. Because I follow some bloggers on their travels to, you know, Pakistan, to Syria, and to other countries with, you know, some had trouble with wars, others had, you know, slow economic growth, and lives are different over there. And for people who've only lived in the States, who've only seen how things are in the States, it's shocking. But that's how a lot of humans live, probably, you know, more than a higher percentage than you can imagine. I think that will help us to make that psychological adjustment.
I agree. You know, I was being interviewed for a show last night, and one of the other interviewees was a reporter who, you know, is from Chile, the country of Chile in South America. And we were talking about APAC, and my concerns were, can China and the United States get along?